Now we bring ourselves back to domestic politics, which is Kristi Noem sitting for a hearing, and it was immediately interrupted. A protester who identifies himself as a former FEMA worker, so under Kristi Noem's leadership, shouts at her, says she should be ashamed of herself. She should. And then I'll show you back and forth between her and senators in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee as well, where she really struggles, really struggles to justify the horrendous leadership that she's overseen.
For that positive response, you please go ahead and give your opening statement.
Kristi Noem, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm a former FEMA.
Okay. Will.
FEMA employees sitting responding to disasters, not ICE. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're saying abolish ICE.
So there's that, and then we'll get into the substance of this hearing. But before we do, I just want to play this for you, because she's going to tiptoe around what she said after Alex Preddy was murdered. And what she said was that he engaged in domestic terrorism, which we've now watched the video a bazillion times. That's obviously not what he was doing. And she lied, and she smeared someone who had just been killed by agents of hers. And you need to watch the clip again, because you're going to feel really gaslit when you watch her tiptoeing around this.
The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence to back up that claim?
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons.
Ideological. Nice.
And for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition.
And perpetuate violence. So could we get... Okay. All right, so we have to have bad leaders and leaders who can't speak, right? You know what? Have Tom Homan explain it to us. Go ahead. Tom, you explain it.
Smith. There's no, I've noticed in the media.
Yeah, that was more clear.
Definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
So she agrees with the question. She agrees with the characterization, which the question was about, the phrase domestic terrorist, then calls it domestic terrorism, which is a horrendously dishonest and disturbing lie. Okay, so with that context, now you have a Democratic Senator, Dick Durbin, grilling her on this.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Just the quickest pause for the video amid all of this chaos. If you do appreciate these updates, please click the subscribe button, click the like button. Both of those are completely free, but subscribe is the most important to support what we do. Back to the video.
Secretary Noem, the nation has watched horrified as immigration agents killed Renee Good, Alex Preddy. In Chicago, one of your Border Patrol agents shot Marimor Martinez 5 times after ramming her car. You and your agency rushed to brand these victims as, quote, domestic terrorist. We have ample video evidence and eyewitness testimony proving you are wrong. Your statements caused immeasurable pain to these families. Let me give you an opportunity to do the right thing. Do you retract these statements identifying these individuals as domestic terrorists?
You know, Senator Dermott, when we have these situations happen, we always offer our condolences to those families, and I offer mine as well. These are tragic situations, and I can't imagine what these families go through in losing a loved one. What I will say is we always work to provide the American people with as much information as possible, that we're relying.
So you just throw out incorrect defamatory statements. You just lie. That's how you try to keep us up to date, is you just come up with the most provocative terms. And no, you don't want to give condolences to the families of victims who were murdered by ICE. You don't. Otherwise you wouldn't lie about the person that was killed, obviously.
On reports from the ground and from agents that are there.
That's like never mind. Never mind. We're not going to reference that.
And from agents that are there and working to be transparent, and we'll continue to do all that we can to provide the accurate information and the facts to people as we can.
Where did you get that information? In a recent hearing before the HISGAC committee, CBP and ICE officials testified under oath that their agencies did not inform you that Preddy was a domestic terrorist during that hearing, stated during that hearing?
I was getting reports from the ground from agents at the scene, and I would say that it was a chaotic scene, as you've seen in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Okay, so you kind of have her beginning to say, well, someone told me. And this is the sign of a really bad leader, which is you make a decision. Imagine yourself being in that important of a position of authority, and then you go out in front of the press. At the very least, you would go, we're gathering evidence, and we will determine what we know when we know it, and we'll share it with you. That would be like if you really were just waiting to gather information, the way you would respond. If you were trying to jump ahead of it, pre-justify the action before it was investigated, you would throw around a term like domestic terrorist with zero evidence, and now we know to be a complete lie. So she's trying to do this weak, cowardly leader thing, which is, yeah, I said that. I made that choice as an adult and as the DHS secretary to say that statement. But it's because other people told me, and maybe it was Stephen Miller, or I don't know, it was someone on Twitter said it that way, and I ran with it. It's their fault.
After the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, when I spoke to Alex's parents, they told me that you calling him a domestic terrorist, this was directly from them, the day after he was killed. A nurse in our VA, Alex, one of the most hurtful things they could ever imagine was said by you about their son. Do you have anything you want to say to Alex Preddy's parents?
We were relying in the hours after that incident that was so horrific on information we were getting from the ground from our agents.
I just asked if you had anything you wanted to say to the parents or to the family of Renee Good after you called them domestic terrorists.
I can't even imagine what they have gone through in the loss of their son and the loss of their family members.
But how about specifically calling them domestic terrorists without any evidence of that?
Sir, ma'am, I did not call him a domestic terrorist. I said it appeared to be an incident of.
I think that.
Oh, okay. So now you can parse your words. You couldn't get out the word ideological and instead said ideological and whatever the other term was. But now you're so precise with your wording that you weren't saying he was a domestic terrorist, but that he was acting thereof. Sure, Kristi. The question was, is he a domestic terrorist? From the reporter, and you said, in so many words, yes. That's what happened. And then you justified it. Even with his new glasses on, Republican Senator John Kennedy, who's looking like a little cutie patootie, a little tulip, as we say down in Louisiana, even he wasn't exactly buying Kristi Noem's BS.
You said these were acts of domestic terrorism, is that right?
Sir, in answer to questions at the press conference that afternoon, it was that it appeared to be.
Yeah, but you said these appeared to be acts of domestic terrorism.
And as I've said previously in this hearing, is that
first, Madam Secretary, did you say
we're getting information from a chaotic scene on the ground and relaying information to the American people.
Okay. Now, again, those videos are public. People can draw their own conclusions. I think it'd be safe to say you got some pushback on that. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair?
Ma'am, Miss Noem, you can't put my hand up the rear end of a cow and tell me I'm sticking it in a candy jar. You ever heard that phrase? Well, you should have.
Yes, sir.
You're Willie Nelson High.
Criticism. I'm not saying the criticism was accurate or inaccurate. I think you did. What got my attention was that you blamed those statements on Mr. Stephen Miller at the White House. Did you not?
No, sir, I did not. And in fact, where you're seeing that is in a news article of anonymous sources. And anonymous sources say a lot of things, but I've never said that at all.
Well, here's what you said on the record. I'm going to read your words. Quote, everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen.
Sir, where did you see me say that at? You read that in
It
a
was
news
reported
article with no sources
You said it on
affiliated
the
to it.
record on January 27th of 2026. Did I
Sir,
read your words accurate?
I enjoy working with the president and with Stephen Miller and
Well, now we know you're lying. No one likes working with Stephen Miller. Now we know that you're full of...
There's something fucked up about that motherfucker.
Okay, so then we get to Mr. Whitehouse, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who brings up... What? Watch it. You think that's where Stephen lives? No, because the white, it's whatever. So, all right, focus. Hey, focus. Don't get distracted. Here's how this goes. Kristi Noem has been slinging around money at DHS, apparently also getting a new bougie plane. And I think as many bad things that have happened in the Trump administration, if you can reveal to Americans that Kristi Noem is flying in a plane with a full bed in it and like a full bougie room, that will get Americans rioting. That will get Americans rioting. If we learn that while we're jamming our knees up against, while we're sitting on a plane where they try to patronize you into believing you have a tray table, but really it's just a 1 by 1 inch piece of metal. Yes, I'm talking about you, Spirit. That you can't even fit your plastic cup on? What's that for? And she's sleeping in a king-size bed in a jet? Oh, we're rioting. So we're rioting. Not really. I'm not actually calling for that. It's a joke.
Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior. It looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft that is dictated in statute by Congress for the Department of Homeland Security to have a plane.
Luxury jet with a bedroom in it?
Yeah, we used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials, and it is used for command and control.
Kash Patel, apparently, all the time. Okay. Kash is like, guys, this is like the main reason Alexis Wilkins likes me. I can fly in a 737 with a full bed. Alexis told me if she has to put a rum and coke on a slit of metal that is a third the size of what a tray table's supposed to be, one more time, she's breaking up with me despite the fact that she's getting paid to spy on me. She's still gonna quit her job. She's going to quit her job as a spy. No, I'm kidding.
Flights for the department. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
In fact, we spent $1.42 billion on ICE deportation flights last year.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it. So it is being refurbished.
Part of the room. What kind of deportee justifies being flown out of the country in a luxury jet with a bedroom and accommodations like this?
There are aircraft being purchased that will...
I don't think she meant to connect the two thoughts. I think she's trying to say we're deporting a lot of people. That's where the most money is going. But separately, we have these planes for administration officials. But she got her thoughts crossed a little bit, and it did sound like that luxury jet was being used to deport undocumented immigrants. And let me tell you, now we got MAGA rioting with us. You thought Kamala saying something in 2019 about undocumented prisoners, sex changes in prison based on a Trump administration era law was bad? Wait until you see the ads of, "Hi, I'm John Ossoff. Have you had to smell the rear end of a passenger in front of you who's jammed their seat all the way back so that you can smell their hair particles during a 5-hour flight where the metal slit of a tray table is so small you put your rum and coke on it and it slides off because the seat's backwards onto you and spills? Well, this is where undocumented immigrants are being deported in. John also, you know what I mean? Like that. No one's going to like that. That's not what she meant, though, obviously.
Will be
funny thought, though.
Utilized for executive air travel and for deportations. If you remember,
have you ever felt patronized and mocked to the core of your humanity when you're on a Spirit Airlines flight and they don't even offer you, and they give you literally 3 peanuts in one plastic bag? It's like, what do you need the bag for? Just put the 3 peanuts on my hand. But they try to make it seem like they're giving you something complimentary. Have you ever asked for a second drink and they said, sorry, we're too close to our destination when you're still 4 hours away? Well, this is where undocumented immigrants are flying on at the direction of Kristi Noem. This is where Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem are having their little vacays.
in the past, we have used jets of this size and this configuration for deportations in the past. If you remember,
in this configuration, by this configuration, you mean with a bedroom and luxury accommodations like this?
That plane
used for deportations. Is that true?
Sir, we have 737s that are being purchased by the department to replace.
Okay, this is going, excuse me, I just spit, nowhere. That's obviously going absolutely nowhere. The only other topic that I want to play for you from this hearing goes back to John Kennedy, and he asks about these ads that Kristi Noem has been running on television, and apparently she spent upwards of $200 million to create and then run ads. Now, some of them are like, are you an undocumented immigrant? I'm Kristi Noem. Do you know what I did to my dog? You better leave. Which are weird. I had a friend come in from LA, and they were, it doesn't matter. It's a funny, okay, we were watching so there was a TV somewhere, infrared sauna, whatever. And so we went to our separate saunas, and he was watching just like the news or not the news, but some TV station that was automatically on the TV. And they kept running ads being like, if you're an they say illegal alien, then we're going to find you. And they had not been subjected to that in California, and they were so confused about all these ads. So they also have made ones where Kristi was like riding on a horse, and she's like, we got to protect our homeland, and meh. And that's what Robert F. Kennedy. That was weird. That was just a English. John Kennedy is saying, Miss Kristi Noem, have you ever been on a Spirit Airlines flight?
And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they
overwhelmingly
were effective in your name recognition.
Oh, shoot. Great. Honestly, John, great point. Because do you think there's not anything suspicious about an administration official spending a bunch of taxpayer dollars on making TV ads and then running them where they're wearing different cool outfits and they have different fun cowboy hats and they're wearing bulletproof vests for some reason, despite being the DHS secretary, not a random agent, and going out, I'm Kristi Noem and I might be outside of your door right now, so be careful. Do you think that doesn't seem like it could be a misappropriation of funds? Because it's definitely increasing your name recognition, your public profile, but is it actually in the interest of the country? I think not. Not at all.